Strength is a skill. I first heard this from Pavel Tsatsouline. I was reading through The Naked Warrior, one of his early books that talked about this idea that strength is a skill. It's not just about building muscle or really what is the standard paradigm. I mean, what is the standard paradigm of people working out, right? You go in the gym, whether it's body weight exercises, weights, or anything, you are working until you break down the muscle, and then it's going to recover and come back stronger. This is the paradigm. This is what 99% of people, this is about the extent of what they think about fitness. So where does strength as a skill come in? Because while that does function, I mean, you can break down your muscles and they will come back stronger if you're recovering and all that. That certainly does work. But it's not the only paradigm of fitness. So strength is a skill. That means there is a skill component behind anything that we're trying to do fitness-wise, exercise-wise. And this is very important to realize. One thing that when I'm traveling around, go to conferences, business events, when I'm introducing myself, I often end up talking about that I do such things as ripping phone books in half or decks of cards. And inevitably, when I talk about this, people ask, oh, what's the technique or the trick to doing that? And the trick really is to be strong as hell and then to apply it in a specific technique. Because here's the thing, there is technique to every single exercise that you might want to do. There's technique to doing a push-up. There's technique to doing a squat, whether it's with a barbell, a kettlebell, body weight, any of those things. There's technique to every single movement you might want to do. There's technique to walking. There's people that teach people how to walk better, okay? So there is technique to every single movement. When you have that technique, that doesn't mean you can all of a sudden do something. You need to have something like strength behind it. But if this is true, then it means some other things are true as well. Endurance is a skill. There's a skill set in your body being able to handle a conditioning impact that's being thrown on you. And of course, because with endurance, you're doing any sort of movement repetitively, right? Whether this is running or jumping rope or whatever else, swinging kettlebells that you might do. If your body is adapted to that technique, is efficient at doing it, which is part of having a skill is being efficient at it, then you're going to be able to endure far better. Flexibility is a skill, right? To be able to relax the muscles and allow them to get into it, there's a huge neurological component to it. And notice that with skills, it really is a lot about your nervous system. Of course, this stuff has to apply to the muscles as well, but that component, everything really works together. We're a holistic system. As much as we like to divide things and talk about them separately, really the body works all together. So to be flexible, that takes skill to be able to do. Then we have things like mobility, right? Mobility is a little different than flexibility, just being able to control your movement and do all sorts of things. We could go into every single aspect of athleticism or types of different movement, and there's always a skill component to doing those. So this is a very important paradigm to realize, and I thank Pavel for really introducing it to me in the first place. Since that time, I've really dived deeper into what does this mean? Because a good question we can ask, okay, so what does it take to build a skill? Practice or training, right? These two words can be used synonymously, and it's very different than working out. A lot of people talk about with working out, right? You are working yourself till you're out, like out of energy, out of any capacity to do more of that movement. That, once again, there is a time and a place for that, but that's one way of doing things, and not necessarily the only way, nor the best way of doing things. Really depends on your goals and what you're going for. So if we're trying to build a skill, we want to practice that skill, or we want to train that skill. To give you a good idea of this, let's look at another skill that doesn't really have to do with movement at all. I mean, there's still movement involved, but it's not exercise, it's not fitness. Like playing a musical instrument. Right now I'm practicing the piano, just getting started with it, but having a lot of fun. And do you work out at playing a piano, right? Do you keep going until you can't do another repetition or hit the keys anymore. Yeah, your hands will cramp up as you're learning to place them into things, but when you do that, you actually stop. You pull back, you shake out the hand, you rest a little bit, and then you go forward again because you're practicing the skill. And generally with a skill, we want to practice doing things right, not just keep grinding through it so we can get done with whatever we're doing. So you wouldn't approach practicing a piano that way. Why does so much of our fitness is that practiced in that way, where you're doing a workout instead? So the more you can realize this and really work with this, that's when I believe you're going to unlock greater and greater levels of ability in what you're able to do in strength, endurance, flexibility, mobility, and all that. This is how I've done the things that I do. I really treat things like a skill. And once again, it's still a workout component. There's that aspect to it, but it's not the most important aspect. If you want a lot more details, head on over to legendarystrength.com. Check out my other videos, articles there. A lot more on this subject, a lot more on mental training, which is one way you can tap into this. Check out the book Practicing Strength and Movement, which is a deep dive into this topic. There's a lot over there. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you treat your movement like a skill.